Asmongold, August 2021. My life goal is to react to so many different videos that I successfully infect every single YouTube user's recommended section. Over the last few months, I've learned that very few people seem to understand why React content is harmful. Even among those who dislike it, their reasoning is often as simplistic as "it's boring" or "it's lazy", while the real problem is much more insidious. Reactors are playing a game with our online creator ecosystem where everyone loses except the reactors themselves. The premise of this video is that React content is a system of exploitation that siphons an incalculable amount of money and exposure away from the hard-working into the pockets of the incredibly lazy. I'll be going over the topics that you now see on screen and looking at a bit of data in order to establish that this is undeniably true. By the nature of the topic, this video contains some information about YouTube that the general audience probably shouldn't know, but everything in this video is crucial to understanding my points, so I'm just going to take that risk. Keep in mind that I consider my personal standard for what is justifiable to be fairly irrelevant. I'm not a moral authority. This video's purpose is not to be an argument for an idea of how society should function or what action should be permissible on what basis, although it may initially appear to be that. In reality, so confident am I that the current state of affairs would be considered abhorrent by the vast majority if it was understood, that all I seek to do with this video is give people the bigger picture which they may otherwise not have known about. Remember that the perfect scam is one where it is hard for the victim to even understand how they were scammed. So, let us start small. Reality has a problem. It is undeniably far easier and more cost-effective to steal or copy something than it is to create it for the first time. Therefore, for as long as someone has been willing to work hard to make something, someone has been willing to take it and thus avoid the effort and cost required to produce it in the first place. Due to its advantages, any unchecked system runs the risk of being ruled by those who are the most efficient at stealing work rather than those who do the work that people covet enough to steal. I argue that we're in a largely unchecked system here in the online creator economy and that this process is slowly happening, especially in live streaming. What is a reactor? Reactors, for the purpose of this video, are those who re-upload other people's creative works as a substitute for creating something themselves, simply by watching the other person's content. So the sleepers, the leavers, the eaters, and those who believe themselves Picasso because they can hit the pause button. This is in contrast to those who use portions of another person's work to create something that stands distinct and apart from the original. This second group does not take all value from the original, therefore what they create does not stand as a substitute for it. Reactors, on the other hand, do take all value from the original, as they're not seeking to create something new, but instead to present the unaltered original work and their first impression to their audience. Reaction content is usually easily identifiable because the title is effectively the same as the original, you have no reason to watch the original work after the reaction, or you can honestly say you have watched the original just by watching the reaction. There is a clear difference between someone using a portion of another person's work to create something distinct and original, and someone simply presenting another person's work to their audience. It is disingenuous to suggest otherwise. Rather than being bogged down with a history of reaction content, this video will almost entirely focus on the present, and while the principles of what I'm talking about do apply to every online platform, the analytics and algorithmic principles will largely come from YouTube. This is in part because YouTube is better with both these things compared to other platforms, but also because you're watching this video, I know you are familiar to some degree with this platform. Despite my focus on YouTube, remember I am speaking about the wider creator economy, all social media. A loss in viewership for a TikToker is just as meaningful to me as a loss in viewership for a YouTuber. What are YouTube and its creators trying to do? It is essential to understand that each day there is a finite amount of people in this world with a finite amount of time. YouTube wants people to spend as much of their limited free time as possible on their platform rather than anywhere else. To help facilitate this, YouTube has an algorithm that presents thumbnails of videos, also called impressions, with the goal of matching a person with something that they actually want to watch. These are different from views, which come after a person clicks the impressions. YouTube's problem is that the more time people spend searching for content, the less time they can spend actually watching the content which earns YouTube revenue. Even worse, the longer it takes for a person to find something to watch, the more likely they are to leave the website altogether. YouTube can only present a finite amount of impressions each day, therefore each impression is seen as a valuable resource that they do not want to waste. Before showing each impression, the algorithm must carefully assess both the likelihood that it will be clicked, as well as how much time will likely be spent on the platform if it is clicked. The algorithm tries to judge not just how much time you will spend watching that video, but also how likely you are to watch more videos after that first one. The higher the average time spent on the platform from an impression click, the more likely YouTube is to risk one of its valuable impressions on that content. Bottom line, YouTube does not care what you're watching, as long as it's keeping you here. We content creators on YouTube are different though. Sure, we want you on this platform, but we do care what you watch. Each content creator is ultimately attempting to influence as many people as possible to watch their content instead of anyone else's. We are effectively running a store in a competitive market, attempting to get you to spend your limited time on us. We want you to click our videos, ignoring everyone else's that are presented to you. Whenever someone on this platform gains some of your finite time, that gain is a loss for whatever you would have spent your time on if they had not succeeded in taking you from that course. You also lose in a sense because doing one thing prevents you from doing something else. This is the implied opportunity cost in every decision that you make. Given that you were already on YouTube, the most likely other path for you would have been looking for and then watching a different video. If the video you clicked didn't exist, you might have clicked the video that the algorithm would have shown instead, or another video on the same page, or you may have failed to find anything for 5 minutes and instead decided to leave and go watch TikTok videos, giving the benefit of your time to those creators. These days, users get the vast majority of their content from recommendations or end up viewing other content because of recommendations. For example, going to a channel page after you were recommended a creator, or finding a playlist of the content that was just recommended to you, or subscribing because of a recommendation. Basically, if you aren't in people's recommendations, it doesn't matter if they know your name, they're probably not watching your content. People rarely go to YouTube to find specific videos that they already knew about, watch them, and then immediately leave. In most instances, people go to YouTube to search for content to fill the time that they have to spend. For us creators, the more of your time we get, the faster we grow, and the more money we are given. If we don't get enough of your limited time, we die, at least figuratively speaking, because bare minimum we can no longer do this as a career. There are 30 to 50 million creators on YouTube depending upon how wide your criteria, and over 2 billion people access YouTube at least once a month. If these people only watched one creator each, creators will get between 40 and 67 views per video, which is far from what is necessary for a career. From a business perspective, we upload videos to take a greater portion of the market for ourselves away from others, and to capture a greater portion of the limited time each of you spends on YouTube every day. There is obviously not enough to go around for everyone. Why do many of the large creators do reaction content? Being a YouTuber means you largely get out what you put in, so you can always work more to get more. Anything that you do that isn't working is therefore a loss of both revenue and exposure, as you could otherwise have created content that would have generated you both. So when you start as a YouTuber and attempt to make it your job, you try and put in as much time as you are mentally and physically able. If you achieve some success, this brings money which you can then effectively use to give yourself more free time to potentially spend on YouTube. You can get better hardware to make editing faster and easier. You can buy better software, you can buy better stock footage, you can pay someone to mow your lawn, wash your clothes. Whatever the inconvenience, you can reduce it. You essentially can increase your potential efficiency by removing unnecessary burdens on your time. This creates a feedback loop, as the more efficient you are, the more money you get, which enables you to become more efficient, which means you get more money, and so on. But eventually, you hit a wall. You are only one person with a finite amount that you can physically and mentally deal with in your job. So you either stop here and just rely on expanding and refining your own skill set to increase your efficiency and growth, or you give up some degree of creative control and find someone to help you. Thinking up ideas, researching, writing scripts, set design, set building, filming, editing, rendering, creating thumbnails, drawing, whatever it is, your goal is to find a person whose time you can buy with your money. The more people who help you, the more efficient you can become, meaning you make more money, which means you can get more people, which makes you more efficient, and so on. Obviously, in the real world, it isn't that simple, especially in creative endeavors like YouTube. While your channel becomes more efficient in its output, you become less personally involved the more you delegate to others. More of your time will be spent managing and finding others to perform tasks, which can impact the quality of the product you once produced alone. Most YouTubers therefore stop at getting 1 or 2 people to help them with things that are particularly time intensive, or things that they simply wouldn't be able to do if they didn't have help. But others go to the extreme, becoming an entire enterprise with dozens of people working for them.
All right, so we are hiring a full-time writer, full-time social media coordinator, full-time executive assistant, full-time tool designer, manufacturing engineer, full-time CSR. We got a lot of stuff to do, you know?
An entire video could be written, shot, edited, and released without the channel owner's input at all. It is important to note here that for the people that you hire, your success is effectively their success, at least in that they benefit from everything going well, as you are not competing with those who work for you. The more successful you become, the more secure they can be, and the more you can give them, but ultimately that depends on the channel owner. Basically, your success does not harm those who work for you. Reactors are a bit different from actual content creators, in that they allow themselves a pathway that is inaccessible to the more, shall we say, moral participants of our industry. This pathway gives them another avenue for problem solving than the ones that we've discussed so far. Let's use some examples. Do you need to think up some ideas? You can do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it for you, or you can steal a YouTube video. Do you need to do some research? You can do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it for you, or you can steal a YouTube video. Do you need to write a script? You can do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it for you, or you can steal a YouTube video. Do you need some background images for your voiceover? You can do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it for you, or you can steal a YouTube video. I could go on, but you probably get the picture. Effectively, while some YouTubers will work hard or pay money and spend the time hiring others to increase their output, reactors will simply use the videos produced by their competitors in the market to skip over that process. They avoid the time spent working and managing, as well as the financial expense, but end up with the same end products. They effectively outsource the time, cost, and effort to their competitors in the market while spending no time, cost, and effort themselves. It also avoids much of the stress and potential for burnout associated with this industry, as you are not doing the work normally associated with it. Additionally, with reacting, you can have high quality content of great variety, becoming a mecca for the best content on YouTube, and it doesn't matter if any of the videos do well, because your expenses and time investment are effectively zero. For actual creators, on the other hand, every video you create is a gamble, because if it doesn't pay off, you lose all the time and money invested which you need to survive. Unlike in a normal business where the success of the enterprise doesn't explicitly harm the workers, reactors are attempting to take a greater portion of the market for themselves away from other creators, which obviously will impact everyone else's ability to survive in the market, but we'll talk about that later. Instead, let us look at how effective this re-upload strategy is by looking at Asmongold as an example. He has been re-uploading other people's YouTube videos for his entire career, and this has been fundamental to his growth and success. For simplicity's sake, we will just look at his current YouTube channel and its React content, even though he has obviously reacted to astronomically more videos on his Twitch stream, and those litter YouTube on other channels as well. Also, for fairness, I have removed the videos where he just reacts to his subreddit, Twitter, or formal announcements, instead just leaving his largely unedited re-uploads of other people's YouTube videos.
Oh shit!
Reactors get how much for watching YouTube videos? Asmongold has reacted to around 450 videos on his main channel for a total of 188 million views. Traditionally, with YouTube videos made by actual creators, it is hard to know how much time and effort went into producing the end result.
I've read, optimized, and bug fixed the entire Mario 64 source code. This took weeks to finish, and a few hundred hours of concentrated work went into this.
Days, weeks, months, it's sometimes hard to guess. But given that Asmongold is a reactor, we know that roughly the duration of the video is the amount of time that he put into it. We can therefore say that Asmongold spent roughly 205 hours working on these videos. As Western channels get on average between 3 and 5 USD per 1,000 views, I will use my 2-year average of $3.43 to say Asmongold made approximately $644,000 or $3,100 an hour for watching these YouTube videos. He's also received approximately 5 billion impressions of exposure, assuming a 4% average click-through rate, which would be fairly standard for videos of this length. I am of course underselling how much Asmongold makes from these re-uploads of other people's videos, as obviously those who watch these videos would then be given impressions of his other videos by the algorithm, which would lead to more views and revenue for his other content that it wouldn't otherwise get. Additionally, I'm excluding the ad revenue, bits, donations, subs, and growth that he gets on his live streams where he first re-uploads this content. This system of exploitation is fundamental for Asmongold to be able to make the roughly $1.5 million he makes on Twitch every year, as any other method to create this content would have resulted in less growth and less streaming for him on that platform. So that may already seem like a lot, but it's actually far more than you likely realize. I have learned that many viewers have no idea how long YouTube videos tend to take to make, so to give you some context, I've had individual videos that have taken me longer than 205 hours to make. It's important to point out though, that my content is far from the most complex on this platform. Perhaps you know of the channel Kurzgesagt, in a nutshell, which has at least 43 employees.
For years, people have asked how we make our videos. So, let's finally talk about it. How to make a Kurzgesagt video in 1200 hours or more.
It should be obvious to everyone that you can't make 400 videos in 200 hours through normal means, especially not with high quality animations, research, complex editing, and so on. Hell, you couldn't make a YouTube video in 20 minutes, let alone transform someone else's.
Powerful magical attacks, but none was so devastating as when he corrupted my drive, which destroyed this video. The last minute of footage was reconstructed from memory, but besides that, his moveset is varied and intense.
Potentially tens of thousands of hours of labor went into creating this content from hundreds of people that Asmongold did not pay a dime. You can see quickly why reactors have an advantage in this industry. A YouTuber can make one high-quality video to generate exposure for themselves, in the same time a reactor can steal 400, and the reactor's product will be of much higher quality on average when compared to the effort invested, due to containing a staggering amount of unpaid labor. Actual content creators can't really compete.
Make 10 hours of high-quality original content a day.
I hope by the end of this video that you will come to understand why this exposure and money would either entirely or almost entirely have gone to other content creators if not for Asmongold's interference. Not just the people that Asmongold steals labor from, but everyone in the wider market. Similar to how larger YouTube enterprises have dozens of people working for them, Asmongold has hundreds of people working for him, enabling the output that he has. The difference is that Asmongold doesn't pay his workers any money, having a relationship similar to an unpaid internship where Asmongold makes vague promises of non-monetary benefits in exchange for the fruits of tens of thousands of hours of labor that he otherwise would have to do himself or pay for. Successful reactors abuse parasocial relationships, people's ignorance of the platform, dubious promises of future success, and or the implicit threat of backlash if anyone complains to secure this labor, and they obviously reap a huge reward for doing so. They know that many creators won't find out about their re-uploads, and even if they do, the worst case scenario is that they have to take down the video after they've already gotten the lion's share of the exposure, views, and revenue that the video would generate. It is theft without any possibility of downside. Basically, the videos Asmongold has been stealing are the backbone of his career. Absent them, he would be out more than $1 million, far more than these billions of impressions, and he would be a tiny fraction of what he is today. Now you might fire back, sure, over 99% of the effort that went into making any of these reaction videos was done by someone else other than Asmongold. But that other tiny fraction that comes from Asmongold is truly special. He pauses the video and he speaks a lot. First off, mathematically, it's not true that Asmongold speaks for a long time. He actually only speaks on average about the same length as the original video. But more importantly, that's not how effort works. Perhaps you've heard the quote, "If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter." It takes effort and time to be precise, to prepare your words to communicate exactly what you want to in the best way possible. Asmongold speaks longer than he needs to because he is not prepared and is just rambling, often about things that are about to be addressed in the video that he is watching, but he's simply unaware of it because he hadn't seen it beforehand. Rambling off the top of your head is the least effortful content that you can make. His verbosity is just more evidence of his lack of care, effort, and work ethic. Bottom line, a React video has the same value proposition as going to a movie with a friend. Seeing and discussing a movie with a friend can be more enjoyable than seeing it alone, but you would never say that the friend who took you to the movie should get a cut of the movie's proceeds for sitting in the chair and giving you his opinion on it. But what's the harm? Obviously, this enterprise of unpaid labor resulting in massive profits exclusively for an unskilled, lazy person doing none of the work is one of the grossest conceivable things in this industry. But how does this impact other YouTubers? The obvious first point is that reaction content enables any reactor to outproduce everyone else on the platform. Here we have one YouTuber who labors for a week to make one video. Here is Asmongold, who steals a YouTube video as a part of his livestream, and he makes it into a video for his channel, ending up with one video that normally takes a week to make, but instead it took him 30 minutes. He also has the added benefit of a livestream and the other videos made of his livestream content. What takes a YouTuber a week, Asmon can do in 30 minutes, but it gets worse. As Asmon isn't limited to only reacting to one video, he can react to several. He can obviously also do this every single day. Now, who is more likely to bring themselves a greater amount of exposure, views, and revenue? Each of the individual YouTubers with 1 week's worth of labor and therefore one video, or Asmongold with 7 live streams and over 40 potential videos, collectively housing a year's worth of labor with a content variety and quality that can't be matched by anything but an army of creators? I hope the answer goes without saying, but it gets worse. Each of these YouTubers and Asmongold are attempting to attract to themselves viewers from the same general finite markets. Who is more likely to end up with the most at the end of the week? Do you think individual YouTubers would benefit more or less if Asmongold wasn't a reactor? Not just the people he steals videos from, but everyone else in the market, as his goal is not just to steal viewers away from those he reacts to, but everyone in general, as he can just as easily steal someone away from any of us as he can the people he reacts to. Who is more likely to grab a greater portion of the finite online market that exists each day? Especially when the algorithm is slightly weighted towards newer releases than older. It's obviously the reactor. Who is more likely to grow faster? It's obviously the reactor, not because of hard work, but specifically because of the lack of it. When a creator supports a reactor, they are implicitly allowing all reactors to outsupply them on the market, making it easier for their direct competitors to capture the same general market that creator is trying to also capture. This is what is known as shooting yourself in the foot. Even if you believe falsely that reactions to your videos offer you something of value, which we will look at later, What you do not see is every time any reaction video appears where your video would have otherwise appeared. Any time where one of your videos would have got an impression, except it then went to a reaction video. You also do not see every time a reaction video is chosen by a viewer instead of one of your videos. You are supporting increasing the competition that your videos experience astronomically, spurring on the growth of your competitors and rewarding them for not working hard or paying for labor by giving them your work for free. You are intentionally choosing to support the existence of competitors who can on a whim steal the talent from thousands of people in order to capture the market that you are also trying to capture. A true underdog story. The harder you work, the more they can steal, and so you will always be behind.
Is that a dog?
It is a form of accumulative advantage. Asmongold, being in a position of advantage, has an easier time gaining more advantage to your detriment. It should be obvious that Asmongold isn't trying to get into your viewers' recommendation feeds to help you, he is trying to supplant you in them, or to have your viewers pick his content over yours. Asmongold isn't magnanimous, he's not altruistic, he's trying to use your content to infiltrate your audience to take it from you. No person has unlimited time to watch videos every day, so for Asmongold to find space, he necessarily has to take those viewers away from something else, and that something else has a greater chance to be you than anything else chosen at random. Asmongold's goal is, like actual content creators, to take a person from the path that they would have tread absent their content being released. The only difference is that Asmongold isn't doing this with hard work, but with stolen content. But remember, I am not just speaking about the impact on the person being reacted to, also known as the reactee. That will come later. I'm speaking about everyone in the market that Asmongold is using this content to try and steal from. To believe that Asmongold's React enterprise has a net positive effect on other creators, you'd have to believe that others benefit from Asmongold being able to skip over all the normal difficulties involved with content creation. That others will benefit if he can produce more higher quality content for his channel. That others will benefit if he has more uploads on his channel. That others benefit if he gives his viewers more content to watch and less reason to seek out and watch other creators. That obviously makes no sense. What is more likely to lead to other creators getting noticed? Larger content creators having the easiest time to create infinite content with no effort, or larger content creators struggling to make content, leaving their audience to need to look elsewhere for more? Do you sincerely believe if the rich get richer that everyone benefits in the long term? That it'll all eventually trickle down to everyone else from Asmongold? In a world where Asmongold didn't use this system of exploitation to increase his supply on the market, then those who watch him would have instead engaged with the recommendation algorithms as normal and ended up in other places watching other content creators. Reactors are not giving exposure to anyone, they are taking it. They are effectively acting as the middlemen for the algorithm, and obviously a multi-billion-dollar algorithm using the analytics of a website with billions of users is going to have an easier time putting new creators in front of people who will actually watch them compared to a reactor who is just stealing videos and showing them to his audience. Other creators would clearly see more exposure to new viewers if reactors would just get out of the way. Without reactors, there is no reason to believe that the online creator market as a whole would shrink, partly because the amount of people who interface with it exclusively to watch other people watch videos is quite small, but also because the overwhelming vast majority of impressions given to React content are never clicked, and for those that are, there is little reason to believe the algorithm's equal or second choice that would replace them would be significantly less effective at keeping people on the platform. Arguably, as original content will get more exposure, making it more profitable to create, this would inspire people to make more original content. The online content marketplace should therefore be more captivating to viewers, not less. But can't everyone just do React content? Obviously not. Someone at the end of the day has to do the unpaid labor for reactors to steal, and this degree of reaping benefits away from others that you clearly don't deserve requires a lack of conscience that few possess. Thankfully few possess. This system of reacting splits everyone into two groups. First, the reactors who take the work, and second, the underclass that performs the work for them to steal. More importantly, React content is most beneficial when you already have an audience that you're trying to keep with you. People have a greater reason to click unfamiliar creators when they run out of content from those they are familiar with, or when they get tired of that type of content. Reactions enable you to have a huge variety of content very quickly, helping you maintain your audience. Ultimately, if we all did React content, those who are already the most successful would just maintain their higher status, and we'd eventually run out of content to react to. Is the reactee at least better off? So reactees are creating a situation where a subsect of the market can outproduce them at a higher quality and for far less effort to capture the same market that they themselves are trying to capture. But maybe the reactee can still get a tiny win in this game, even if everyone else in the market loses except the reactor. What if the crumbs that fall from the reactor to the reactee are bigger than any potential loss the reactee will experience from all the reaction videos on the market? This can't be determined definitively, of course, I don't have a time machine. Although conceptually, it seems unlikely that you could get more exposure and views from a single reaction than what the millions of reaction videos would hypothetically take from you in the algorithm in terms of impressions and views in the long term. Even speaking of just one reactor, where you could have a net gain in viewers from the one-time Asmongold reacted to you, the other reactions he releases would have just as much chance to take impressions and viewers away from you as they would anyone else. Actually, I guess it would be more likely than a creator chosen at random because the demographics you both target are likely similar. But nevertheless, I think it's important to look at the crumbs that can fall from a reactor's mouth to the reactee to see if these are truly significant. We are therefore going to look at the analytics of the creator Josh Strife Hayes that Asmongold has reacted to a dozen or so times. If you don't know Josh, he makes a lot of content surrounding MMOs, he has a great voice, and he's a truly humble dude. After binge watching all of his videos, I heard him remark a time or two that he believes he owes Asmongold his success, that Asmongold made him in some respects. Looking in a general way, Josh took off in December 2020, but Asmongold's first reaction was not until March 2021, which funnily enough preceded a dip in his viewership. But these general stats from Social Blade are insufficient for our uses, so we'll look at YouTube analytics for the period where Asmongold's reactions took place. At the very least, we know for certain that Asmongold's reactions were not responsible for Josh's channel taking off, as the channel took off before that point. We'll be looking at these 16 reactions, which have netted Asmongold 180 million impressions, 7 million views, and roughly $25,000 for doing nothing. Looking at his channel views between March and August, unsurprisingly there is little correlation between the overall health of the channel and the reactions done by Asmongold. Surely some views must have come from him during this time, but there is just no correlation with the reactions and the overall change in the success of the channel. One way of looking at it is that reactions can't make your content appealing or algorithmically viable, and that is all that matters for channel success. The first 4 reactions seem to have done nothing at all, often preceding dips in viewership. In fact, the period where Josh's channel saw the greatest growth compared to the prior month was in May, and it had no reactions until the end of the month. These late reactions actually occurred prior to a downturn in the channel, and these in the middle did nothing to change its course. This therefore makes it hard to attribute Josh's July success to the reactions, considering that they occur just as much on bad days as they do good. Josh's gains here are ambiguous, but Asmongold stealing 180 million impressions, 7 million views, and 25 grand from the wider market are far more concrete. It should be obvious which of the two gained more from the relationship, especially as only one of the two actually did any work for these gains. While subscriptions are less valuable these days, it is far easier to see gains from reactions with the subscriber count, as much smaller gains are more obvious to see. While it is hard to know for certain, comparing the day before and the day of a reaction, I'd estimate each reaction gained Josh less than 500 subscribers each. Especially while remembering that Josh is losing views and impressions to Asmongold's business model during this process, you can see that this is not very much. One party is obviously winning out here, and it's certainly not Josh or everyone else in the market. Certainly if you compare these gains to the potential losses from all reactors taking views and impressions from the market, Josh is unlikely to have a net positive, especially in the long term. But why? Why is it that a reactor can show millions of people the entirety of 16 videos from a creator, and we have to sit here with a magnifying glass to find the effect of those millions? Why are reactions so ineffective?
Of course, not always is that reacting going to help them. In fact, I would argue that it's pretty rare for it to.
Why are there not just tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people flocking to this new channel that they were just presented with through a reaction? If you knew nothing about human behavior and YouTube's algorithm, you'd assume that showing an entire video would do far better than a mere impression of a thumbnail and title.
Actually so bad.
But unfortunately, reality gets in the way. The first problem being, reactions are not advertisements. When you actually advertise something, the idea is to convince a person that there is something of value to be had that they currently don't have, and getting that value is worth whatever the requirements are to get it. Advertising a YouTube video looks like this.
Also, they definitely don't need my help with a shout out, but I just wanted to highlight because I love it so much. Did You Know Gaming put out a new video about Metal Gear Solid and a lot of the cut ideas from the series, things that didn't make it into the final game. I knew about a lot of this stuff, but as just like an insufferable diehard fan, but there's still a lot of really cool surprises in there that I think people are going to enjoy. It's a really, really great video, and it's narrated by David Hayter himself, which is incredible. I love that man's voice.
You explain what it is, why it's good, why you should seek it out, how to get it, and where to find it. You give them a taste that leaves them wanting more, a portion that is impossible to satisfy a person if they find it interesting. Reactors are not doing any of this because they're showing you the entire product, thus at no point in the entire viewing does it communicate that you will receive greater value being elsewhere. You are already getting the full experience of the original after all, so there's no reason to chase after what you've already received. If a reactor stopped a video a quarter of the way in, some people would say, that video had an interesting premise, I want to see more, and they'd seek out the original. If they stopped at 60% of the way through, some would say, I want to see how this ends, and they'd seek out the original. It's why trailers for movies don't show the entire movie. It is also why companies will often put the first episode of a series on YouTube for free, or pay people to show it to their audience, as it will inspire people to seek out the rest of the product. This is in contrast to reactors that make sure to take every morsel of value from the product, start, middle, and end, to give people the least possible reason to seek out the original creator. It is of course possible that there could be something else of value on the original channel, but the viewer isn't going to know that because it's not explicitly shown. It is therefore only a very tiny amount of people who take it upon themselves to seek and find out if this is the case. Bottom line, reactors are creating a market substitute for the original, which is perhaps the only thing an advertisement is not meant to do. The second problem is that reactors are the direct competitors to the reactees. They are not trying to give them viewers. Reactors are not stupid. They know if a viewer is spending time watching another person, they're not spending time watching them. Asmongold doesn't wake up every day trying to map out the perfect way to have his viewers split their time equally between him and the hundreds of people that he reacts to. If you go into any reactor's social media, there are not endless posts about the glories of other content creators and how much you should watch their content. Reactors are not trying to get you to watch someone else. They are just trying to produce more content to bring themselves more viewers and to get their current viewers to watch them longer. The overwhelming vast majority of people do not look in descriptions, do not go to the comment section, and don't click links found in either, especially when they haven't been given an explicit reason to do so. The links found in these sections exist to ward off criticism of content theft, and the reactor is secure putting them there as they know as well as any other creator that very few will notice or click them. Asmongold, like all reactors, is not trying to help you. He is trying to indiscriminately replace people in your viewers' recommendation feeds. Whether he replaces you or someone else, he doesn't care. Large content creators do have many means available to them to help out small content creators. Reactions are just literally the worst mechanism for this purpose. The third problem is that reactions do not give you watch time. The amount of time people spend watching a video is one of the most important factors in grabbing the algorithm, and it makes connections between videos that people tend to watch together. So if a lot of people watch video A and then watch video B, the algorithm will recommend video B to anyone who watches video A, with the goal of course of keeping people on the platform longer. Unfortunately, as the Reactors audience has seen the entire original video within the Reactors video, they have no reason to watch the original creator's video. Therefore, either they will never go to the original video, or their watch time will be 0% if they go to just like or comment, for example. Basically, the algorithm has no reason to believe that these people have any actual interest in the original content creator's content, or would stay on the platform longer if given more of it. However, the viewers have just watched the entirety of the Reactors video, which suggests to the algorithm that they want more of it, and thus they'll get a bunch of recommendations for the Reactors content rather than the reactee. That may seem bad, but it gets worse. While the people who watch the Reactors video have no reason to watch the original video viewers do have a reason to watch the Reactors video. What's that? Famous person is giving their opinion on a content creator I watch, let me go see. So people who watch the original video have a higher chance to be recommended the reaction, but people who watch the reaction don't have any reason to be recommended the original. If you've seen the reaction, you'll ignore the impression for the original video as there's nothing new for you in it. But if you've seen the original, you might not ignore the impression for the reaction because it has new content in it, even if that content is just someone rambling for 10 minutes. So the reactees viewers are more likely to flow to the reactor than the reactors are to flow to the reactee. Sick, ain't it? This is the game of how Asmongold can draw your audience to him, but not have it flow back the other way. It is also why he continues to grow at such monumental speed, sucking in all the viewers from the market while pretending to help people. The links on the video may flow outward, but the algorithm flows inward, and only one of those is significant. This is largely why Asmongold can use reaction videos to get into your viewers' recommendation feeds. There are some forms of content that are exceptions to this tendency, like music, memes, and clips. As each are effectively infinitely rewatchable, a viewer could see them on one channel and then watch them again somewhere else, which would mean people who view either video would get recommendations for both. It is important to remember that the algorithm doesn't know what content is in videos, or why people watch them. It's machine learning. It recommends videos that achieve a particular outcome and lacks the capacity to care why that outcome was achieved, simply that it was achieved. Your title and thumbnail are not as important for influencing the algorithm as they are for influencing the viewers. which is why there are a host of successful channels that have no titles just to get people to click out of curiosity. At the end of the day, the algorithm can recommend all it wants, but the viewers still have to click it. This is why titles and thumbnails are so important. The fourth problem with reactions that cause their ineffectiveness is that subscribers don't matter as much as they used to. You are more likely to directly get subscribers than views because while the reaction has not presented any other videos that the viewer might care about, the creator themselves might be appealing to the viewer, so they might click through and subscribe. Unfortunately, YouTube moved its focus away from the subscription model eons ago. Even for a channel as established as my own that releases a video every day with 1 million subscribers, only 5% of my views come from the subscription feed. It is also one of the reasons why you can find many multi-million subscriber channels that get no views on their videos. To briefly explain why, the subscription feed makes sense when you're on desktop and at one glance can see all the videos that came out that day. You can then put them in a watch later playlist or open a bunch of tabs. But most people watch YouTube from mobile devices, where the subscription feed is not only not the main tab, but it isn't really much different from the home feed, which is the default. Also, after you click a video in the subscription feed, everything else presented to you will be recommendations anyway. Lastly, using myself as an example, I release a video each day, so I'm always in my subscribers' feeds, but I have 1,000 videos that can all appear in people's recommendations. Just by sheer weight of numbers, my videos will always appear more in recommendation than they will in the subscription feed. As I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times, the algorithm is all that matters. The fifth problem is barriers to entry. As a rule, the harder it is to do something, the less people will do it, which is probably not news to you. So if your goal is to have the greatest number of people do something, you should have as few requirements and difficulties as possible. So let us look at the requirements and steps needed for a new viewer to go from a reaction to watching a video from the original creator that they had not seen previously. They need to be interested enough to click the reactor's title and thumbnail without knowing who the original creator is. They then have to enjoy the content that is presented, but more so for the original creator than the reactor. They then need time left after the reaction to watch something else. The viewer then has to ignore all the other videos on screen of content specifically chosen by the algorithm as something that they may want to watch. The reaction needs to have somehow communicated that there is other content of value on the original channel and more valuable than any other content you could watch right now with a single click. They then need to click open the description and hope they can find the link to the original creator if it's there, or search for the original creator in the search bar if it's not present. Now on their channel, they would need to search for a different video because they have already seen the original video in the reaction. They then hopefully find another video that is of interest and then watch that video for a significant duration. Only at this point would the original creator get anything of value in regards to engagement for the algorithm, which again is all that really matters on YouTube. There is always someone who does this, but the reactee has 14 steps and/or prerequisites before they get any value in the algorithm, while the reactor gets value in step 1 the second the video is clicked. Somewhat lopsided, I think you'd agree, and heavily favoring the person who did none of the work to make the video. The sixth problem is that reactions can't make your content good, nor can it make it algorithmically viable. If your thumbnails and titles suck, they will still suck after a reaction. If your videos are poorly paced so people don't watch to the end, this will not change if someone reacts to your content. A reaction cannot solve whatever problems are causing your content not to be picked up in the algorithm. Your fortunes, therefore, cannot significantly change by being reacted to. If your content was algorithmically viable, you'd succeed sooner or later. If it's not, all the reactions in the world will not save you. Besides, the suggested alternative by reactors is clearly not better than the algorithm even if it did work. Turning YouTube into who can debase themselves and give the most unpaid labor to the already rich and successful is not an improvement over the algorithm. Nepotism is not a superior system to anything. I will say though, remember YouTube wasn't always like this. Reactions made a bit more sense back when YouTube was primarily subscription based and a click that came from anywhere was seen as equally valuable regardless of how long a person watched. But this hasn't been the case with YouTube for like a decade.
Over a decade ago!
The seventh problem is the loss of exclusivity. I am the only person in existence who has a pacifist comedy series related to GTA 5. If anyone has an interest in that, or will have an interest in the future, I am the only person they can go to. I have had dozens of videos that have blown up months, if not years later, for heaps of views when the algorithm finds pockets of people who the content appeals to, or when things happen in the world that inspire new interest. When you allow a professional reactor to have a duplicate of your content on their channel, especially one larger than you, it will be their video that sees the future bump, not yours. And the final problem, viewers can already know about the channel that is being reacted to. Asmongold, as is the case with most reactors, reacts to already successful well-known channels that have to some extent reached market saturation. The vast majority of those who watch the reaction therefore already know about the original content creator. They will either already have seen the original video and want the reactor's opinion on it, or they haven't watched the original but are watching the reaction as a substitute for it as they prefer to watch it with someone else. In either case, the original creator's ability to benefit is substantially lower than it is normally, and there isn't much potential for benefit to lose to begin with. The reactor certainly can still benefit though, obviously. Larger content creators are targeted by reactors because they have the most viewers to siphon. Asmongold didn't react to Josh Strife Hayes 20 times after he became successful because he just really wanted to make sure his viewers knew who Josh was. But what about when React content works? Well, React content always works, in that its goal is to give the reactor exposure, views, and money, whilst also helping them avoid work and the financial cost incurred when making content. But in regards to the reactee, the deal for them is like if I gave you $100 on the condition that you support me in my scheme to take $5 a day from you for the rest of your life. It's just a very bad deal. I mean, it's worse really, given that you'd also be supporting them taking $5 from everyone else, not just you, and no one else gets the $100. When large creators actually have a significant one-way positive effect on smaller creators, it is not due to reactions. A large creator can make content with another channel to collaborate, the other channel hosting the content exclusively and therefore getting watch time. They can also shout out another creator on social media, which then directly leads people to the original channel, getting them watch time. Bare minimum, the creator can spend time explaining to their viewers about all the content that the other channel has that they haven't seen. Further, they'd explain why it's worth their time, and thus they'd have more reason to seek it out. Reactions work for the reactee when they don't just watch a video to give themselves content, they work to sell a channel to their viewers. This is just both uncommon and does not at all require reactions to do. The reactions benefit the reactor, actual promotion benefits the original creator, but these are separate things that do not require each other. Any benefit a reactor can provide a reactee can be done better without re-uploading the entirety of their work. Therefore, the only reason to do it is for the benefit of the reactor and not anyone else. Re-uploading someone else's video is never an act of magnanimity or altruism, it is just an attempt to gain self-benefit. Why aren't all creators adamantly against React content? To start off, many people will not voice their displeasure at such content due to a fear of backlash. Calling out exploitation, especially by the powerful and influential, contains risks that few want to take. Odds are you're just going to piss off your viewers that like reactors and nothing else will happen. Even if you say, no one is allowed to react to my content, you are still losing the same way that we all are, as reactors will just move on to the next person's unpaid labor with absolutely no consequences to their profit or exposure. You will still suffer the negative externalities from their unethical business practices, and no amount of complaining will stop that. Secondly, adoration of bigger YouTubers exists even among creators. Oh my god, that famous creator was willing to upload the entirety of my month's work to their YouTube channel? That's so cool! It's sad, but it exists. Such people are just happy to be acknowledged. They don't care if there's some tangible benefit. Even at my level, I've gotten offers from people to work for me for free because of my status. Of course, I say no because I'm not an asshole and I pay people for the work they do for me. I am wealthy. I have no reason to seek free labor. I of course differ from reactors in my views on such matters. Thirdly, many YouTubers don't think all that much about how YouTube actually works. They therefore view reactions to their content as only potentially neutral or positive. They either get nothing or they gain. They do not consider how reactions affect them long term, or how some of their competitors being the nexus for thousands of hours of unpaid labor impacts their and everyone else's ability to capture the limited market on YouTube. It should go without saying, but the exploitative business practices of reactors doesn't go away just because the individuals being exploited are ignorant of it. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable the person is, taking advantage of someone is still wrong. For every scam, there is someone out there who believes himself a genius while being scammed. For every system of exploitation, there is a person whistling happily while they're being exploited. There are others who understand the unfairness of the system and, while they're unwilling to exploit it themselves through reactions, they still desire to put themselves in a spot where they can benefit from the stolen gains. Everyone loses in the React game except the reactor, but those directly under the reactors lose out the least. Reactors can dole out their ill-gotten gains to those who are the most loyal and who support them in their enterprise. Hey, kiss the ring and maybe you'll get a collab. Perhaps a Twitch raid. Maybe rather than just using your video as fodder for their channel, the reactor will spend some time singing your praises, communicating the value that can be found with your content. Every lord needs underlings, and some people are perfectly happy being such. Lastly, many creators are too successful to care about something that clearly at least isn't stopping their success, or they want to avoid their own questionable business practices from being questioned, or they themselves want to get involved in the React game. Me, I just care about people, and I care about this industry. I further despise abuses of power, and I strongly believe those who work hard should be rewarded for it, rather than the lazy who just exploit others. If I didn't have these feelings, I clearly wouldn't say anything either, as clearly reactors are not stopping my success. But shouldn't the market decide? No! There is a market for every terrible thing you can imagine. The existence of demand for something does not justify meeting that demand through exploitative means.
Nobody gives a care about the fate of labor as long as they can get their instant gratification.
Hell, every industry would see a reduction in cost if all labor was unpaid. This wouldn't be good outside of YouTube, nor is it a good practice within it. Society does not benefit as a totality when laziness is rewarded over hard work, which is what reaction content does on YouTube. But what about fair use? This section will be split into 3 parts. The first, you do not care about fair use law. Imagine a law was passed that said you specifically can't eat or drink. Would you obey the law and die of deprivation? Of course not. You'd consider the law unjust and would obviously ignore it, as any potential consequences of doing so surely couldn't be worse than death. Now imagine a law was passed that said you specifically can't eat your favorite food. Further, imagine there was a guy from the government over your shoulder watching you at all times, and his only job was to chop off your hands if you ever violated this law. You'd likely also consider this law to be unjust, but you'd probably stop eating your favorite food. Hopefully you've picked up on that the law is not the ultimate source for what you consider justifiable for people to do. As the legal system is a force of socialization, it will influence what you will likely grow up and believe is justifiable, but it is not the sole determinant of your conclusions. Ultimately, we do whatever we personally feel is justified, for whatever reason, and only care about the law if its existence could potentially impact the likely consequences of our actions. If our desires conflict with the law, we weigh up the risk versus reward of obeying or ignoring it. Bringing this back to the topic at hand, you will support the content you believe should be allowed to exist regardless of what fair use law says in any country. You only care about fair use law when you believe, rightly or wrongly, that it can give your position credibility. It is why so much of what people say is defended under American fair use law actually isn't at all. What people actually mean when they reference fair use law is, I like this content and I think it should continue to exist. At the end of the day, copyright law in our content creator spaces is fairly toothless. While many creators have been inconvenienced by it, it is exceptionally rare for it to go beyond that. If every week a creator was paying huge fines or going to jail for violating copyright law, every person would be an expert in exactly what the law allows or does not in relevant jurisdictions. Until that time comes, everyone will just do what they feel is justified, where the rewards outweigh the risks. To loosely quote xQc, they're not gonna do shit, as he streamed anime to hundreds of thousands of people on Twitch. He only stopped when he believed the risk was getting too high. Section 2. Something being legal does not impact whether or not it is morally justifiable to do. As extreme examples, slavery, genocide, child abuse, these are classed by today's morals and ethics as abhorrent and indefensible, but they were either legal once upon a time or are still legal somewhere in the world, either explicitly or implicitly. If you hold the position, what is legal is justifiable to do on that basis alone, then you are implicitly defending every horrific act in history that happened to be legal at the time. You are also leading yourself to contradiction, as many things are legal and illegal at the same time in different places. When arguing for something on the basis of the law, what you're looking for is not the law itself, but your justifications as to why you think the law is a good one for society to have. The law itself justifies nothing, it changes every day, and it differs wildly depending upon the soil that you happen to be standing upon. However, the justifications for the law can remain constant. Section 3. Even the American legal system would not class this content as fair use. While we have no reason to give American law dominance of the entire world, let's discuss it anyway. It is important to note that the existence of ambiguous things does not make all things equally ambiguous. There are certainly some cases where it's debatable whether the newly created work would fall under fair use or not, but there is no ambiguity here. Reactions, as I define them here, are perfect market substitutes for the original. If you see the reaction, you have no reason to watch the original, and the reaction is attempting to achieve the same purpose and target the same audience as the original. Fair use as a legal argument partly involves attempting to argue that what you've created does none of these things. You also want to make the case that all the copyrighted material that you used was strictly necessary for what you created. This is impossible for a reactor to do, because they had no idea what material existed in the original work prior to copying it. Reactors further don't selectively choose the bare minimum, they take everything regardless of relevance. It is possible for other content that people label as reaction content to fall under fair use, absolutely, but not in the form of relevance to this video. While I have been intentionally brief, there is no interpretation of precedent or the fair use guidelines that would allow for any of this content to pass. This was explained in legal commentary all the way back in 2017 when debate about this content was most severe. I included this part on fair use more out of exasperation than actual care. I have never even been to America, and its copyright system is outdated, heavily preferences larger entities like production studios, and it isn't suited to be applied to a quickly evolving ecosystem like the online creator space. The idea that what people wrote down in 1976 America should matter when seeking justification for any act anywhere in the world, let alone one as clearly exploitative and harmful as React content, is not sensible. React content rewards laziness and punishes hard work, which I believe is not conducive to a good society, let alone a good online content ecosystem. Let us now move on to talking about React content on Twitch. Twitch is bad, and it should feel bad. At any given time, there are 25 to 35 viewers on Twitch for each live streamer, meaning that if viewers were evenly distributed between every live stream, no one could make a sufficient income to do it as a job. There are literally not enough viewers to go around for everyone to be successful, and the platform is extremely top-heavy. This is seen most clearly in the 2021 Twitch leaks that showed everyone's earnings over a 26-month period. Looking at just the top 3,600 earners, you can see how quickly it drops to a fraction of the top. In fact, only 7,500 of the 18 million people who stream on Twitch each year make over the American federal minimum wage of $15,000 a year. The Twitch struggle. Professional live streamers are in a constant battle for exposure to bring in new viewers, to both grow and to replace those viewers who stop watching. Through the primitive discovery systems on Twitch, you get exposure in a few ways, but all have the issue that the more viewers you have, the more exposure you tend to get. This is in part because people naturally seek out what is popular, rightly understanding the modest correlation between popularity and quality, but also because Twitch does not have any good mechanism to assess the quality of a stream beyond its popularity, in part because the moment-to-moment quality and focus of a stream can vary wildly. No one knows exactly what's going to happen in a live stream, because it's live, so they're very hard to qualify. The first way to get exposure is via the game directories, and this was actually the only way to get exposure for a lot of Twitch's life. The live streams in these sections are traditionally sorted from the most viewers to the least, meaning the more viewers you have, the more exposure you get. I recall an ad agency suggesting that after the first 6 most viewed streams in a section, the exposure is effectively nothing. But you have likely heard at least one streamer remark over the years, "I have a lot of viewers right now, so I really should stay live." And this is what they're referring to. So the first stream will be examined by everyone, some will click it and stop looking, others won't find it appealing and so will move to the next, some clicking, some not, and so on. With every additional spot you are down this page, the less likely people are going to look at your stream because they've already found something potentially appealing or quit trying. So the more viewers you have, the more viewers you're likely to get, so the most prominent advice for growth on Twitch is to get viewers from somewhere else with a competent recommendation system and bring them to Twitch so you can grow within its systems as well. Twitch added a handful of features over the years to attempt to curb the rich getting richer reality of the platform. Chief among these additions were the recommended channels on the side of the page, on the homepage, and the sort by recommended in the directories. The problem with these as a solution is that people will still seek out what is most popular first. When in doubt, we always look to what everyone else is doing first, only doing something different when we don't find it appealing. In other words, even when presented with multiple options jumbled up, people will still on average look at the largest creators first. The less you have, the longer you have to wait for the viewers to trickle down. Another big problem with Twitch is that you could have the most amazing hour-long jaw-dropping stream, and your stream will still get the same level of promotion as your normal content. All you have is 5 words in your title to stand out, and no one even reads them. In any category, all the streams are effectively random nonsense that do not communicate what they're about until you click them. Twitch's fatal exposure flaw. So if you're already big on Twitch, the odds are massively stacked in your favor, but there is one small problem. Exposure on Twitch only goes to those who are live. Once you're offline, no recommendations, no directories, nothing. Your channel ceases to be shown to new viewers, replaced by a different channel who will get that increased exposure instead, and your viewers will go on to do other things. Many of these viewers will seek out a live stream they've never been in before, or will go into other familiar streams, increasing their viewership, which in turn increases their exposure to new viewers on Twitch. While this benefits other creators, it does not benefit the person who just went offline, so if they want to get the maximum out of Twitch, they need to stay live as long as possible. To demonstrate that for this video, I live streamed my old YouTube videos effectively non-stop for 10 days, where I otherwise wouldn't have been able to stream due to writing scripts for my videos. Over the 190 hours, I gained 9,000 followers, $4,000, and I averaged 1,000 viewers. This compared to my previous 10 days where I gained 2,500 followers, $3,500, and only streamed 22 hours. This shows that just being live in some capacity brings about huge benefits, but also if I could physically be there on the stream longer, I would clearly gain more than simply showing reruns. The implication of everything discussed so far is that those who are the most popular on Twitch are not necessarily the most skilled or the most entertaining, but those who can simply be live the longest. There are actually a very small amount of people who biologically need half as much sleep as everyone else. If you happen to be one of these people, live streaming is probably for you. But obviously I can't be live that long, as I'd get very tired and I have other responsibilities related to my content on YouTube. I also can't just show reruns forever, as my normal viewers would just come to assume that I'm never live, resulting in them stopping by less, and I'd eventually run out of my own content to rebroadcast. But what if there was a way to effectively expend no energy while having an infinite variety of high-quality edited content? Twitch reacting, a cheat code to screw everyone. There is a large variety of things that could cause you to stop streaming, resulting in an increase in exposure for everyone else below you, but a loss of exposure for yourself. Boredom, lack of energy, no content, a need to edit, showering or eating, time to think of ideas, wanting to chill and watch content, preparation, planning collaborations, etc. Most of these, however, can be limited or prevented entirely by streaming other people's videos, and doing so can even increase the quality of the stream, as YouTube can bring forth a huge variety of high-quality talent that you don't have. Videos that took the original creators hundreds of hours to make are thrown on the fire of the Reactor stream to keep that engine running a little while longer.
You could make a compilation of me sitting around, not even on camera, with a fucking video playing in the background.
The idea, of course, is to keep viewers as long as possible, giving them as little reason to watch anyone else. Why go the effort of finding other creators when all the best content is in one place? Even better, you can watch the videos with an audience, which is something the original creator who made the video does not offer. Often reactors will not just prolong their streams with React content, but will start their streams with it, believing it gives them higher viewer numbers initially and for the rest of the stream. They can also farm the best videos of the day, meaning viewers can reliably wait for the stream to watch them, screwing the original creator. A good example is xQc, who makes about $4 million a year from Twitch alone. Analyzing less than a month of his Twitch streams showed me that he streamed about 70 hours of other people's videos during this time, which is comparable to how long high-ranking non-reacting streamers can stream at all. Do you have any idea how long it takes to make 70 hours of edited YouTube content? This is like thousands of hours of unpaid labor. Actual creators have to deal with all the other responsibilities and detrimental effects that are brought about from content creation, but xQc does not due to his ability to stare silently at YouTube videos for many hours a day. In other words, reactors use reacting to increase the exposure they get on Twitch and to limit what everyone else receives on the platform. Attempting to fight xQc and other large Twitch streamers for the scraps of Twitch exposure that slip through their fingers is not a productive use of time compared to making content for YouTube, which has a better recommendation system. Twitch works as a trickle-down system, where the larger streamers get the first shot at viewers looking for new content, and less are still looking the further down the list you are. Therefore, the less time larger streamers spend streaming, the less barriers exist for other creators to get viewers, and the greater the need for the large streamers' viewers to branch out and find other content creators. The further away you start from the top, the less chance you have to get there. This is why it's effectively unheard of for new creators to grow from zero to hero solely on Twitch. The systems are just not designed for it, but this can happen if you get exposure on other platforms. For example, I didn't become number 294 in earnings on Twitch by live streaming. I did it by reducing the amount I streamed each year and focused on YouTube instead. It doesn't matter how hard you work or how talented you are, you're not going to beat the guys with no conscience who can steal the talents of thousands of people in a system designed to keep them successful. So other Twitch streamers get screwed, but the YouTube reactees benefit, right? No. If reaction content on Twitch led to a significant amount of viewers watching other things, then the reacting streamers wouldn't do it because they'd quickly run out of viewers. Twitch reactors, like all reactors, are trying to keep viewers with them rather than watching someone else. They are succeeding, thus believing that actual creators benefit if people watch Twitch reactors more is obviously quite silly. Twitch reactions are ineffective at driving viewers to other creators for the following reasons. 1. These are Twitch viewers who are happy watching Twitch and the person they're presently watching. Getting people to jump platform is hard at the best of times, but a reactor gives as little reason as possible for a viewer to go. A viewer wants content, and there it is in the live stream. Advertising is all about creating a want in someone and then telling them where they can satiate it. A reactor's live stream is already satiating the want a person has for entertainment, thus they need additional motivation to leave. But on the contrary, they have every reason not to leave, because they know they will miss the live stream content coming right up next. The live stream doesn't end after the video is shown, thus there is no natural break to cause people to think about seeking another creator. The live stream directly competes with the original creator for the viewer's attention, and the live stream has a far better chance of winning because the viewer is already watching it. Besides, if a viewer wanted to find something new, they'd be looking in the directories for it, or would be on YouTube in the recommendation algorithm. They are in the live stream to watch that live stream. If they wanted to be hopping around YouTube videos, they wouldn't be in that live stream. Some people just want to chill, watch a video with an audience, and have the content curated for them, which is obviously a much easier job than actually making the content that's being curated. The second problem, they've already seen the video. As I've already mentioned, YouTube cares about watch time. A viewer who has already seen the entirety of the original video is not going to watch it again, even if they do find some way to stumble onto it. I mean, having a link appear in chat for a few seconds as it flies by is not exactly easy access to a video. But even in the case where they do find a way to the original, hitting the like button and then going back to Twitch is literally the worst form of engagement possible. YouTube wants to keep people on the platform, and this engagement suggests that your video sucks at it. It has no ability to influence the trajectory of the video in the algorithm, which, in modern YouTube, is all you should care about. The third problem is that much of Twitch's viewership is passive. Many people just go to Twitch to chill, to have something on in the background. You may often notice that when a streamer does something that requires engagement, the amount of people who engage is only a small fraction of their viewer numbers.
What are these votes? If you're not gonna participate in the group activity, then leave!
So if a video is shown in its entirety to 12k people on Twitch, the amount of people who are in a position to even seek out the original content creator is only a tiny fraction. For a viewer of a Twitch stream to seek out a reactee's content, they have to not be away from their PC, not be just listening to the live stream, not otherwise distracted, for example, by playing a video game. They have to know the name of what's on screen and the original creator, which is not always shown. They have to want more of the original creator's content, despite having already been given its start, middle, and end, and not necessarily knowing what else the original creator has made. They have to be looking at chat in time to catch a link as it flies by if one is given at all. They then have to not want to be in the live stream anymore, something that they were previously enjoying. Lastly, they have to find something on the original creator's channel that is interesting to them once they investigate. Much like with a reaction video on YouTube, reaction streamers benefit right away, whereas several things need to happen for the reactee to gain anything at all. The reactor maintains their revenue and exposure the second they show the video, while the benefit to the original creator who spent all the effort to create the content is either non-existent or so incredibly small that it's hard to find. Targeting this singular drop of water rather than the ocean that is YouTube's native forms of exposure is clearly a waste of time. The fourth problem is that reactors don't want their viewers to leave. Reactors do not work to inspire their viewers to seek out the original creator, or when they do, it is often performative. A reactor will say, okay guys, we're going to watch this video, and here's all the things I'm going to do after the video, so you better make sure to stay here with me and not go elsewhere. The live streamer is competing with the original content creator, and obviously the live streamer has the home field advantage. The fifth problem, even recorded cases of engagement are very low. xQc was reacted to by Hassan Piker in front of 30,000 people and got an extra 180 views. No, you heard me correctly, 180. Bismuth got reacted to in front of 12k people and got 50 views. Willie Mac Show got reacted to by MoistCritikal in front of 20,000 people and got 100 views.
When Critical reacted to my video on stream, I received around an extra 100 views on that video.
These numbers are obviously tiny, but I want to look at the best case scenario. Ludwig spent $600 to get the highest levels of production quality and voice acting to make a video specifically about Mizkif and to stroke his ego. No one had seen this video before, but even after paying Mizkif to watch it in front of 50,000 people, only around 2,000 clicked through to the original video. Again, this was a video that no one had seen previously, literally perfectly tailored to the audience and creator, and the click-through rate was 4%, and no one then watched the original video when they clicked through, as they had already seen it.
Obviously, there's a huge drop-off because a lot of these people watch it with Mizkif.
Think how these numbers would compare to how many of these 50,000 would have just stumbled on the video naturally and watched it on the original channel, but now will not do so because of the reaction. I have a video coming out later that looks at this example more closely, because it's even worse than I'm describing, but we will leave it here for now. Take the Ludwig example. Now imagine how low these numbers get when it's just a normal video not made specifically for the creator and their audience. Well, you don't really have to imagine it because I gave you examples, but you get the idea. Compare that to a reality where these people didn't react to content, and so their viewers had to go and find content that appeals to them somewhere else in the market. What is more likely to generate benefit for other creators? Why doesn't everyone just do React content on Twitch? If we ignore ethics and respect for other content creators, anyone could technically do this because it requires no skill. However, those who are already successful obviously receive the most benefit. The more exposure you're already getting, the better off you'll be if you increase the duration that you experience it. If your exposure is 0, staying live permanently does you no good, but if you're getting the maximum exposure possible in every directory you're in, obviously staying live matters more. It should be obvious by now that Twitch is a terrible place to grow. It's a system where the rich are far more likely to get richer with or without React content. React content just makes it far worse, and there's really no escaping it. If you don't want to compete with the React streamers, sure, you can go spend 10 hours making a YouTube video, but those reactors will then stream those 10 hours and then either steal your YouTube video or someone else's to upload to their YouTube channel in an attempt to siphon the market of YouTube away from you. Whether you like it or not, wherever you go, you will always be at a disadvantage to the content thieves. The person aggregating the content to themselves is always going to be better off than the person who is making it. Theft is always faster than creation. You can ask yourself, would you rather be the guy spending 100 hours making a YouTube video, or be the guy reacting to this content for millions of dollars a year without paying a dime to those who actually did the work? But isn't all content just React content? What defines an appropriate use of someone else's content, to me at least, is not simply about what you add, but what you leave behind. You should never take so much that what remains has no value. What you create should not be a perfect substitute for the original, which all React content is. This is why content around video games works so well. It acts as an advertisement for an experience that the video can never give. It is effectively impossible to show everything of what a game has to offer, but even if you do manage to hold a single viewer for potentially hundreds of hours, the experience of doing it yourself, the gameplay that defines what games are, is value that you're unable to take from the original and give to the viewer. Whoa, this game looks fun. Where do I get it? Moreover, content made about video games actually has to be made. It takes effort to make content from it. You can't just boot up the video game and let it run itself, which is obviously the case for React content, as reactors don't even need to be in the room. Where the content? Edited videos are already content, thus anything you do beyond that is merely a bonus. This is not the case with video games, as they are effectively platforms for creation. What you personally do in them potentially has never been done exactly that way before, and maybe never will be done exactly that way again. But the reactors will stop if asked. The only reason reactors stop stealing your content if you find out is because they fear a copyright strike or community backlash. You have found them stealing from your house, and they stopped because they were worried you would call the cops. They obviously don't give back anything that they stole, and they then go next door and start stealing from your neighbor. Besides, it isn't even possible for a reactor to give back what they steal anyway, as the money and exposure comes from everyone, not just a singular source. Regardless, there are never any consequences for a reactor when they're found stealing, so they just keep doing it. It doesn't matter how many riots there are against reactors, it doesn't matter how many videos or articles are made, reactors will just wait until the heat dies down and go back to reacting. In the same way that Charlie said he'd stop reacting to videos, but he went right back to doing it anyway. Once you start exploiting people, it's very hard to stop because nothing can compare. To the reactees, the unpaid interns. Has this not gone far enough? Does our space need people making millions of dollars reposting content? Do you sincerely believe that the wealthiest among us should be able to bolster their enterprise without working for us? Do you believe in trickle-down economics, that if the rich get richer, everyone benefits? Do you actually sit for hours staring at your editing software to be an unpaid intern in another person's enterprise that seeks to usurp the market from you and people like you? Whatever you believe you get for supporting React content, you must see that there is never a net benefit for you or anyone else in the space, because reaction content as a totality will always take more from the market than reactees receive from reactions. It is a net loss for you in the long term, and it always will be. But worse than that, you contribute to the diminishing of all those around you. You sell out your fellow creators for the gluttony of the lazy reactors. Any person who watches or re-uploads enough videos to be seen as a reactor isn't celebrating your work. They don't care about you. Is being Asmongold's 500th lay something you should be proud of? To be used as his justification to avoid work, to avoid learning new skills, paying people for labor, or avoid growing as a person. You are not Asmongold's partner. You are his tool. A means to an end to be discarded when you've served your purpose. Your labor will be added to his pile, as have hundreds before and will hundreds after. He will take from you, as he does everyone else, and will not stop until he has it all. Asmongold clearly has enough, but enough is not enough for those who feel entitled to have it all. A sad note to end on. Those who exploit and abuse others are too powerful in this world. Even in this small corner, with all the influence I have, I feel powerless to stop even this injustice, and let's be real, it is far from the greatest injustice that exists. Social systems value the already successful, regardless of how the success was obtained, and they make it easier for them to maintain and increase that success to the detriment of those who have yet to obtain it. I believed this to be true before I became rich and successful, and I believe it even more so now that I'm both. I despise such aspects of life, and React content to me is just one more example of it. There is little I love more than passionate people. To see these obscenely rich, lazy people reposting other people's videos at the speed of sound, spending just enough time to watch and say a few words, this isn't what content creation should be about. Usurping the market away from actual content creators, people with passion for this work, disgusts me. Watching a YouTube video and pausing it does not make something new and distinct. It isn't creating anything. The reactor is merely presenting someone else's work for profit, and that's obvious to anyone who isn't blind. Reacting is a scam that works to keep those in dominance continually dominant. It is unlimited free labor, used to avoid much of the work that normally goes into content creation, so that the reactor can spend the maximum time farming exposure for themselves away from others. There are those who make YouTube videos, and there are those who steal them. What exposure does fall from the reactors to those below isn't out of magnanimity. They are not being benevolent or kind. This scam is just not foolproof. They can't capture everyone, even if they damn well try. I believe those in society who work hard should be rewarded for it, not those who specifically avoid working hard. I want to now revisit the beginning of this video. Asmongold, August 2021. My life goal is to react to so many different videos that I successfully infect every single YouTube user's recommended section. Why do you think Asmongold believes he deserves to kick other people out of the recommended section to make room for himself? He isn't a YouTuber, he doesn't edit, he isn't willing to put forth any actual effort to achieve his goal. Yet so entitled does he feel to this end, that he's willing to steal the efforts of others and displace other hard-working deserving people on YouTube in order to grab the wealth and fame from them for himself. Every reactor is like this, entitled. Your efforts are merely fuel for their success. There is something they want, and they will take whatever they want, regardless of the harm that it causes others. At the end of the day, I'm not saying every single person who has ever watched another person's video is somehow equivalent, but watching other creators' content shouldn't be a fundamental part of your business strategy as it is for reactors. Asmongold has been fundamental to the wider adoption of React content, and therefore the furthering of the rich getting richer nature of this industry, and the general exploitation of the hard-working in favor of the lazy. Asmongold differs from other reactors, in that while I can't be sure other reactors understand the harm they cause, I know for a fact Asmongold understands and just doesn't care. That, and the tweet he made him a better case study than most for this video. While I would ask any reactee who is brave enough to just strike these reactors, I know just as readily as the reactors that fear of backlash will stay your hand in most cases. I would however like to appeal to the viewers. Do you feel our platforms are best served by the most lazy being the most rewarded? Do we benefit from the most hardworking being the most penalized? Perhaps in your own life you've seen the undeserving rewarded, or felt used by those in higher positions. If so, unsubscribe from reactors. Click the 3 dots next to a recommendation and select not interested in this channel. The same algorithm that presented these videos to you will be the same one presenting something equally appealing in its place. YouTube is larger than any of us can fathom. The loss of these exploitative people will not be felt by you, but it will be appreciated by everyone else. Be sure to like and subscribe. Also leave a comment if you have something on your mind. My feed gives them to me from all over my channel. It doesn't matter how old the video is. I wish you all the best.